Carter stood silently near the kitchen window while rain slid down the glass like tears that refused to stop falling. The apartment smelled of cold coffee and expensive cologne, the same cologne her husband wore whenever he was trying to impress someone important. She held the edge of the counter tightly as footsteps echoed through the hallway behind her. Ethan Walker adjusted the cuffs of his tailored black suit without even looking at her. The man she had loved for 10 years no longer saw her as a wife. To him, she had become part of the furniture. Invisible. Replaceable. "You're quiet tonight," he muttered while checking his reflection in the mirror. Emily forced a weak smile. "I made dinner." Ethan glanced toward the dining table, where candles flickered beside the pasta she had spent hours preparing. He didn't even walk closer. "I already ate." Her chest tightened. "With Victoria?" For a moment, silence filled the room like smoke. Ethan sighed impatiently. "Emily, don't start this again." She swallowed hard. "People are talking, Ethan."
"People always talk. Are you sleeping with her?" The question shattered between them. Ethan finally looked at her, but there was no guilt in his eyes, only irritation. "Victoria understands ambition," he said coldly. "She moves in circles that matter." Emily felt her stomach twist painfully. "And I don't?" Ethan laughed softly, cruelly. "You still think small, Emily. You're comfortable living an average life. I'm trying to build something bigger." Tears burned behind her eyes. "I stood beside you when you had nothing." "Exactly," he snapped. "And I've outgrown that version of myself." The words hit harder than a slap. Emily stared at the man she once believed would love her forever. Years ago, Ethan had been a struggling entrepreneur sleeping on a mattress on the floor, while she worked double shifts to support them both. She paid rent when his startups failed. She encouraged him when investors laughed at him. She skipped meals so he could attend networking events wearing decent suits. She had built him with her love. And now, he looked at her like she was holding him hostage. "Victoria can introduce me to investors worth billions," he continued. "She understands the future I deserve." Emily whispered, "So you're leaving me for money?" Ethan grabbed his car keys.
"I'm leaving because you hold me back." Her breath stopped. For a second, she truly thought her heart had broken physically inside her chest. "Don't do this," she begged quietly. "Please." Ethan looked away. "I already signed the papers." He tossed divorce documents onto the table beside the untouched candles. Emily stared at them in disbelief. Her hands trembled so violently she could barely touch the papers. "You signed them before talking to me?" I didn't want another emotional scene. The cruelty in his calm voice destroyed her. 10 years, Ethan," she whispered. 10 years together. People change. I loved you when nobody believed in you." Ethan opened the apartment door. "That's the problem, Emily. Love isn't enough anymore." Then he walked out. Just like that. The door closed softly behind him, but the sound echoed through her soul like an explosion. Emily collapsed onto the floor beside the dining table, sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. The candles flickered while tears dropped onto the divorce papers. Outside, thunder shook the city skyline, but it was nothing compared to the storm inside her heart. That night, Emily lost everything. 2 weeks later, Ethan officially appeared in public with Victoria Sinclair, the glamorous daughter of a billionaire hotel magnate. Social media exploded with photos of them stepping out of luxury cars, attending yacht parties, and smiling beneath flashing cameras. Headlines called them the new power couple.
Emily avoided the internet completely. She moved into a tiny studio apartment above an old laundromat on the edge of the city. The ceiling leaked whenever it rained. The heater barely worked. She sold most of her jewellery to survive and took freelance coding jobs online during the night while waitressing during the day. Nobody knew how badly she struggled because she hid it from everyone. Pride was the only thing she still owned. Every morning she woke up exhausted, staring at the cracked ceiling while wondering how the same man who once kissed her forehead before work had become a stranger, capable of destroying her life without remorse. Some nights she cried herself to sleep, holding old photographs.
Other nights she stared at the laptop screen for hours, refusing to break. Pain slowly turned into fuel. Emily had always been brilliant with technology. Before marriage, she dreamed of launching a digital platform combining AI-driven fashion customization with ethical production systems. Ethan used to tell her it was unrealistic. Nobody cares about sustainable fashion tech, he once laughed. Focus on practical things. But now, practical things had left her abandoned and broke. So one freezing winter night, while sitting in her tiny apartment, wrapped in blankets because she couldn't afford proper heating, Emily opened her laptop and began building the dream everyone dismissed. She coded for 18 hours straight, day after day, week after week. Her fingers blistered from typing.
She drank instant coffee and survived on cheap noodles, while developing a software platform capable of predicting fashion trends using consumer behaviour analytics. The system could customise designs instantly based on body type, personal taste, and sustainability preferences. It was revolutionary. But no investor wanted to meet a divorced woman living above a laundromat. One investor interrupted her presentation halfway through and asked, "Where's the male founder?" Another said, "Fashion technology is cute, but billion-dollar markets require aggressive leadership." Emily smiled politely through humiliation while silently memorising every face that underestimated her. She never begged, she simply worked harder. 3 years passed, then 4. Slowly, things changed. A small independent designer agreed to test Emily's software. Sales tripled within months. Word spread quietly through the fashion industry. Investors who once ignored her suddenly requested meetings. Emily remained calm, controlled, unreadable. She built her company, Elysian Labs, with relentless precision. Soon, her technology expanded into luxury retail analytics, AI-driven consumer forecasting, and digital manufacturing. Major brands signed partnerships worth millions, then billions. Emily hired hundreds of employees. She bought a sleek penthouse overlooking Manhattan, but still remembered every night she spent hungry in that freezing apartment. Success never erased the scars. It only taught her how strong survival could make someone. Meanwhile, Ethan's glamorous life with Victoria wasn't the fairy tale magazines portrayed. Victoria loved status more than loyalty. Their relationship revolved around appearances, parties, and business advantages. Ethan gained access to elite investors, but he also lost control of himself trying to impress people wealthier than him. His startup struggled despite endless networking. Investors saw arrogance where Emily once saw potential. Over time, Ethan became bitter, restless, angry. Nothing ever felt enough. One morning, exactly 5 years after leaving Emily, Ethan sat inside his luxury penthouse drinking espresso while scrolling through financial news. Victoria walked past him wearing silk robes and diamond earrings while talking loudly on the phone about a charity gala in Monaco. Ethan barely listened.
His attention froze on a magazine cover displayed across every business website online. Forbes. The headline read, "Emily Carter, the youngest self-made female billionaire in America."
Ethan's coffee cup slipped from his hand and shattered across the marble floor. There she was, Emily, his Emily, standing confidently in a white tailored suit against the skyline of New York. Elegant, powerful, untouchable. The article described her billion-dollar empire transforming global fashion and technology markets. Net worth? $4.8 billion. Ethan stared at the screen in horror. "No," he whispered. Victoria glanced over irritably. "What now?" Ethan turned the tablet toward her with shaking hands. Victoria's eyes widened. "Wait, your ex-wife?" He couldn't breathe. He opened the article desperately. It detailed Emily's rise from poverty, her groundbreaking innovations, her leadership style admired worldwide. There were photos of private jets, Paris fashion events, charity foundations, and global conferences. But one sentence hit him hardest. Sources close to Carter say she built her empire completely alone after a painful divorce nearly destroyed her financially.
Ethan felt physically sick. Memories flooded him all at once. Emily working late nights beside him when he had nothing. Emily rubbing his shoulders after failed investor meetings. Emily believing in him before anyone else did. He remembered calling her average, holding him back. Dear God, what had he done? For the first time in years, shame consumed him completely. "You never told me she was smart like this," Victoria muttered. Ethan laughed bitterly. "I didn't know." But deep down, he realised something horrifying. Emily had always been extraordinary. He was simply too blind to see it. That entire day, Ethan couldn't focus on anything else. He searched every interview, every article, every video featuring Emily. In one clip, she stood confidently on stage at an international tech summit while audiences applauded wildly. Her voice sounded calm and powerful. "Success built from pain creates a different kind of strength," she said. "You stop needing validation from people who fail to value you." Ethan felt like the words were aimed directly at him.
That night, he sat alone in darkness, replaying memories he spent years ignoring. He remembered Emily bringing him soup while he worked sick for days. He remembered her sewing buttons onto his only suit before important meetings. He remembered her sleeping beside him on a tiny mattress while promising, "One day we'll have everything we dream of." Tears filled his eyes unexpectedly. Victoria noticed his silence over the next few days. "You're obsessed with her," she snapped during dinner. Ethan rubbed his face tiredly.
"I just can't believe it," Victoria scoffed. "She got lucky." Ethan looked at her sharply. "No, Emily doesn't get lucky. She earns things." Victoria rolled her eyes. "Oh, then go congratulate your genius ex-wife." Ethan stood suddenly. "Maybe I will." A week later, Ethan attended an exclusive charity gala hosted by Elysian Labs in Manhattan. He spent 2 hours staring nervously at the ballroom entrance, surrounded by politicians, celebrities, and billionaires. Then the room suddenly shifted. Cameras flashed wildly, heads turned. Emily entered wearing a breathtaking black gown embroidered with silver detailing that shimmered under crystal chandeliers. Diamonds rested elegantly around her neck. Her confidence changed the atmosphere instantly. Ethan's chest tightened painfully. She looked nothing like the broken woman he abandoned years ago. This Emily radiated power, grace, intelligence.
Men and women rushed toward her eagerly. CEOs greeted her respectfully. Investors laughed at her jokes. Reporters begged for interviews. Ethan stood frozen while watching the world worship the woman he once threw away. Finally, Emily noticed him across the ballroom. For one brief second, surprise flickered in her eyes. Then it disappeared behind calm elegance. She walked toward him slowly. Ethan forgot how to breathe. "Emily," his voice cracked. She stopped in front of him with composed politeness. "Hello, Ethan." Hearing her say his name again nearly destroyed him. "You look..." He struggled for words.
"Incredible," Emily smiled softly. "Thank you." Silence stretched painfully between them. Ethan swallowed hard. "I read the Forbes article. I figured you might." "I had no idea." Emily looked directly into his eyes. "You never asked." The truth in those words cut deeper than any insult. Ethan lowered his gaze, ashamed. "I was wrong about you." Emily's expression remained calm. "Yes, you were." He expected anger, bitterness, cruel satisfaction. But Emily simply looked peaceful. That hurt him even more. "I hurt you terribly," he admitted quietly. "I know." Ethan's eyes filled with regret. "I thought ambition meant chasing wealthy people and powerful connections. But you..." He laughed bitterly. "You became everything I wanted to be." Emily studied him silently before speaking. "No, Ethan. I became who I always was. You just only valued people after the world approved of them." Her words left him speechless. Music played softly around them, while wealthy guests continued mingling nearby. But Ethan felt isolated inside the weight of his regret. "Can we talk sometime?" he asked desperately. Emily hesitated briefly. "Why?" Ethan looked broken. "Because losing you was the greatest mistake of my life." Emily's eyes softened for the first time, but not with romantic emotion, with understanding. "You didn't lose me when I became successful," she said gently. "You lost me the moment you believed I wasn't enough before success." Ethan felt tears threaten his composure. "I still love you." Emily smiled sadly. "No, you love the woman the world admires now. The woman you ignored already existed when we lived in that tiny apartment together." Ethan opened his mouth, but couldn't deny it, because she was right. Every brilliant quality now praised by magazines had always been there. He simply failed to see beyond money and status. Emily glanced around the ballroom filled with luxury and influence. "For years I thought your rejection meant I was worthless," she admitted quietly. "I destroyed myself trying to understand why I wasn't enough for the person I loved most." Ethan looked devastated. "Emily, but pain taught me something important," she continued calmly. "People who underestimate you often reveal more about their own limitations than yours." Ethan wiped his eyes quickly, embarrassed by his emotion in public. "Is there any chance for us?" Emily stared at him for a long moment. Then she smiled softly, almost kindly. "I forgave you a long time ago." Hope flashed across his face. Then she continued, "But forgiveness and trust are not the same thing." His expression collapsed again. Emily touched his arm gently. "You leaving me forced me to discover my own strength, and strangely, I'm grateful for that now." Ethan whispered painfully, "I'd give anything to go back." "I know. Do you ever miss us?"
Emily looked toward the city skyline glowing beyond ballroom windows. Sometimes I miss the people we were before ambition poisoned everything. Tears finally escaped Ethan's eyes. I'm sorry. Emily nodded slowly. I believe you. Then
someone called her name from across the room. A handsome investor approached, smiling warmly. Emily, the mayor wants to introduce you to the delegation from Dubai. Emily turned back toward Ethan. Take care of yourself. Before he could respond, she walked away gracefully into the crowd of powerful people waiting for her attention. Ethan stood alone, watching the woman he once abandoned become unreachable. Not because of money, not because of fame, but because she had evolved beyond needing him. Months passed after the gala. Ethan tried contacting Emily several times, but their conversations remained polite and distant. She never humiliated him, never mocked him. She simply moved forward with her life, while he remained trapped inside regret. Eventually, news broke that Victoria had left Ethan for a European billionaire. The tabloids called it scandalous. Ethan barely reacted. Losing Victoria felt meaningless compared to losing Emily. One winter evening, Ethan attended a public speech Emily gave at a university entrepreneurship event. Students filled the auditorium eagerly, while cameras broadcasted the event worldwide. Emily stood confidently on stage, wearing a simple cream-coloured suit. Despite her unimaginable wealth, she spoke with humility that silenced the entire room. Success is not revenge, she told the audience. Real success is healing enough that you no longer need revenge at all. Ethan listened from the back row with tears in his eyes. Emily continued, the people who hurt you may become part of your story, but they should never become the author of your future. Thunderous applause erupted across the auditorium. Ethan clapped too, even while his heart broke, because for the first time, he truly understood her worth. After the event ended, Emily found him waiting outside near the snowy campus entrance. She smiled slightly. You came. Ethan nodded. I needed to hear that. Snowflakes drifted softly around them beneath city lights. Ethan looked exhausted these days, older somehow. You changed the world, he said quietly. Emily shook her head. No, I changed myself. The world simply noticed afterward. Ethan laughed softly through emotion. You always know exactly what to say. Years of practice. They stood silently for a moment. Then Ethan asked the question haunting him for years. Were you scared? Back then? After I left? Emily looked down briefly. Terrified. Then how did you keep going? She smiled thoughtfully. Because survival becomes addictive once you realise nobody is coming to save you. Ethan's chest tightened painfully again. I should have stayed. Emily met his eyes gently. Maybe. But then neither of us would have become who we are now. I know you did. I just didn't know how to value you properly. Emily stepped closer and kissed his cheek gently, a goodbye filled with peace rather than romance. I hope one day you learn to value yourself properly too. Then she entered the car. Ethan stood in falling snow, watching the vehicle disappear into the night, while realising some losses stay with you forever. Not as punishment, but as reminders. Emily Carter became one of the most admired billionaires in the world. She expanded Elysian Labs globally, donated millions toward women's education programs, and mentored young entrepreneurs from struggling backgrounds.
Magazines called her inspiring, powerful, revolutionary. But the people closest to her knew the truth. Behind every achievement existed a woman who rebuilt herself from heartbreak, one painful step at a time. A woman who transformed abandonment into ambition without allowing bitterness to poison her soul. Years later, during another Forbes interview inside her breathtaking penthouse overlooking Central Park, a journalist asked her, "What's the greatest lesson success taught you?"
Emily smiled softly while gazing at the city lights sparkling below. Never let someone else decide your worth, while they're still trying to figure out their own. The interviewer nodded, impressed. And what about revenge? Emily laughed quietly. The best revenge is becoming so complete within yourself that the people who hurt you can no longer control your happiness. Somewhere else in the city, Ethan read those words online late at night. He smiled sadly through tears, because even after everything, Emily still inspired him. And maybe that was the cruelest, most beautiful part of all. The woman he abandoned had become extraordinary, not because she was loved correctly, but because she learned how to love herself after surviving heartbreak.